Hey, you're the boss. You're the boss. This is Lily, my beautiful miracle baby born via IVF. The journey to meet her was anything but simple. IVF might be a solution that you are exploring, or it might be something that you know nothing about. When I started the process, I was pretty unfamiliar with the in vitro fertilization process. So it can be daunting, expensive, confusing. A lot of doctors write a one-size-fits-all prescription. So I'm going to take you through the story of my journey and help you with some things I learned along the way that I wish I knew when I got started. Welcome back to my channel. I'm Joanna Palante. I'm here to help you on your holistic health journey and to achieve the family life that you dream of. Let's get started. I began my IVF journey in the summer of 2021. I was 38 years old. I had a friend who had a beautiful daughter born via IVF. And my friend said to me at the time, you should really go see my doctor because I think if you and Roman, my husband, want to have a baby, you know, he's a little bit older, I was getting up there. Basically, I should go see this doctor who helped her achieve the goal of having a beautiful little girl. So I said, okay, no problem, I'll go meet with your doctor. So I went to see the doctor. She introduced herself, sent me over this whole pamphlet full of numbers, you know, I think to basically kind of give you somewhat of a reality that, you know, as you age, you naturally start to lose some of your eggs and they diminish in quality. And, you know, a lot of statistics that basically would lead you to believe that, you know, your clock is just really ticking. So I said, you know, rather than waste time trying to get pregnant naturally and not have success and then end up at the IVF doctor later, why not just go straight through the process and do an egg retrieval when my eggs are still really healthy. So at age 38, I signed up for an egg retrieval. So I went to the doctor. She said, great, if you're ready to get started, let's do this on your next cycle. So I was super excited to have a baby and get the process going. So the next thing I knew, I was getting lab work done and just kind of rushing through things because I felt this pressure, right? We all feel this societal pressure to have a baby and to, you know, make our family proud and just keep up with our friends who are having babies. So I did this blood work and they sent me home with a bunch of medications. And I didn't really fully understand what I was doing to my body at the time. But basically, when you start an egg retrieval, you will begin a series of hormone injections. So I was injecting myself in the belly. I actually did this while traveling, which was not optimal. But again, I didn't want to waste another cycle, waste time. And so I went off to Aspen with a suitcase full of IVF meds, which can range probably on the low end from $2,000 to, you know, on the high end, depending how many cycles you do, maybe close to $10,000. So I go off with my meds. I'm in good spirits. I'm taking my injections every day on time, just trying to get the best possible result. Now, I was really fortunate. I did an egg retrieval and I got 20 eggs out of that retrieval, which for my age, the doctor told me is basically double what they would expect. So great, we're off to a great start. Things are looking good. I didn't do a lot of the prep work, which I would recommend doing if you're just beginning this process. I think there are ways that you can optimize your health so that you don't fall into the trap like some of my friends have fallen into, which is multiple rounds of egg retrieval just to get maybe 1 or 2 eggs. Now everybody's different, you know, there are different conditions and things that some women struggle with where they might not have, you know, 20 eggs, which I was very fortunate to have. But in any event, I think it's really important that at this phase of the IVF process, you take a step back and evaluate your overall health before you jump into the highly medicated process, which was exactly what I did. So where do you go from here in the IVF process? Well, if you're ready to take the next step, then your partner, if you have one, would be tested on his end. My husband did that part of the IVF, and we basically then match his sperm with my eggs. And so that will generate embryos. So we were fortunate to have 9 embryos from the 20 eggs that they retrieved from me. Of my 9 embryos, they do genetic testing if you opt in for that, which is a benefit to IVF that I did really enjoy. So they tested my embryos, and at that point, they grade your embryos. So they said to me, you have 4 very healthy embryos, and they happen to be all female, which was great because I wanted to have a girl. So that was, a good outcome for me. And we decided to freeze those 4 just because they were simply the healthiest. So great, we have these 4 frozen girl embryos. Now I'm excited. I've completed phase 1, which can be really challenging for people. And I basically took a month off to prepare for the next phase, which is what they call transfer day in IVF. So transfer day is the most important part of the process. It's when they take the embryo that you desire, whether it's a boy or a girl, from the genetic testing if you go that route, and then they insert that embryo in you. On transfer day, there's basically about a 40% success rate of the embryo even taking. So most people will do this and they'll wait 14 days for a pregnancy test after that. And in, I would say, a general statistical rule of thumb, 30 to 40% of those embryos take. So the odds are kind of stacked against you at this point. To prep your body for transfer day, what I find that most doctors do, and what my doctor did, was give you more medication, right? So I was just told to take progesterone shots and estrogen leading up to transfer day. Okay, I did as my doctor described. So far, she brought me all these good results, and I just trusted her and I went with this process. So again, I'm into this for thousands of dollars, and I am doing something that kind of goes against my general rule of thumb because I'm a pretty holistic person in general. I'm injecting myself with medications that are messing with my hormones, but I want to have this baby, right? And this is the breaking point for a lot of women in IVF. So they just do what the doctor says and they go with the program. And let me tell you, it is far from fun. So there's different ways that you can go about the progesterone and the estrogen. But for me and my experience, I was doing these injections nightly. I was doing them on myself. They were horrible. There's no sugarcoating this. The estrogen one night, I messed up on the dosage. I took it at the wrong time. I got violently ill. I threw up. I knew something wasn't right about taking this much medication. And I went and, I had this transfer done. I had a very positive mindset. I told myself it's going to take, and it did. So great. I've passed another major IVF hurdle. Part of what the whole IVF process is supposed to do when you do this embryo selection is you're supposed to weed out embryos that are flagged, maybe there's some kind of abnormality or something that would normally cause you to miscarry. So you're basically, if you get to the point of being pregnant in IVF, your odds are looking pretty good. And I made it to 6 weeks pregnant. I was really excited. I took really good care of myself. But I was still taking these drugs that the doctor just prescribed for me, like everybody gets in the same one-size-fits-all IVF prescription that most doctors do, based on my experience. At this point in time, 6 weeks into my pregnancy, I started to feel off one day, and I realized something wasn't right. And I called my doctor because I realized that I was having a miscarriage. This was the second miscarriage I've had in my life. The first one was from a pregnancy when we weren't even trying. I miscarried very early on. I learned at that point in time that pretty much 1 out of every 4 pregnancies could end in a miscarriage. It's far more common than most people think. Most women don't talk about it. I didn't talk about it with my friends because it was an early term miscarriage. Nobody even knew I was pregnant. So I just picked up the pieces and stayed focused on, getting pregnant again down the road. With IVF, you're not really supposed to miscarry because if you get pregnant, that's the biggest hurdle in IVF, right? It's just getting to the pregnancy. Most women will, generally speaking, stay pregnant once they've done a successful round of IVF. So I was devastated, baffled, couldn't understand why this went wrong when I thought I had, optimized my chances for success here. At that point, my doctor ran a bunch of tests on me to see if there was something, maybe internally wrong with me, if something caused me to have this miscarriage. And the answer after all the testing was she didn't find anything wrong. So she nonchalantly said to me that she wanted me to try a natural transfer for my next round. And I looked at my doctor and I said, what is this natural transfer? And she said, with a lot less medications, it would just mimic your natural cycle And, we think you should try that for your next cycle. And I said, well, why wouldn't you tell me that on the first go around, that was even an option? I've talked to many of my friends who've gone through the process. They've opened up to me after the fact and, said to me that this was something they were struggling with. And I said, has your doctor ever explored this with you? And they've all told me no. So I think that it's something that most doctors don't suggest. I don't know the reason why, but I was really upset about this because I think that perhaps if I did this way the first time around, maybe my outcome would have been different. I don't know. But I did a more natural version of an IVF transfer about 3 months after I miscarried. And I did a lot of things to prep my body this time. You don't want to be stressed when you're doing IVF, which is such a crazy thing to say because it's a super stressful experience. You're messing with your hormones, you're depleting your bank account. So it's almost impossible to not be stressed. But I knew I needed to stay calm to keep my hormones in balance as much as I could. I made sure I got my vitamin D level checked, my thyroid level checked. All of these things can really affect a pregnancy. And I feel like most women don't start from within and check these things as just a starting point before they go the medication route. So I optimized those levels. I did acupuncture. I made sure I was really, really balanced on my second round of IVF for my IVF transfer. So on this round, I did it with hardly any progesterone and I did no estrogen whatsoever. And they basically tracked my natural cycle and they inserted my second embryo of my 4. And that resulted in a successful pregnancy, which I carried to full term at 39.5 weeks. I have my beautiful daughter here now. And I'm here to just share my story to open up your mind, whether you're just getting started in the process, you don't know anything about it. I hope that this helps you understand the way that things work and the whole overall process, and that there are alternative ways for you to optimize your health before just going the injection route, which is, it's just not pleasant. There's no sugarcoating it. There's no easy way around it. It's expensive. It messes with your body. And I think there are alternatives that are not known to most people. Real quick, I just wanted to hop on and let you know that I created an ebook guide. It will take you through my entire IVF process and my journey through pregnancy. I took a holistic approach and I want to share with you all of the tips that led to my successful pregnancy. If you're investing all this money in IVF, I don't want you to make the same mistakes that I made on my first round. And I think it would be really valuable for you to download the guide. I have it linked below and it's just something that I'm really passionate about and wanted to share with you so that you can have a successful pregnancy. So I hope you download it and have some great takeaways. So as I celebrate my second Mother's Day this year, I know this is a really challenging time for many women. I remember looking at other women that just had 2 kids and 3 kids and always knowing that I would get there in my heart, but struggling with why it wasn't happening for me. So I want to be here and be your advocate and tell you that it can happen for you, it will happen for you. You certainly can do things within to optimize your health. I would recommend starting this process at least 3 months before you go see your doctor. There's so much that goes into fertility. It starts with nutrition, it starts with your diet, it starts within. So I really hope that you take these tips and wellness things that I've gone through and personally can vouch for and get to, the family life that you want and deserve.